Hey, how are y'all doing this rising? This is AMPspire Interviews, and I am your host, the Plum Queen. Well, today is an AMP-tastic day. We have a special guest from the Amputee community, and we're going to tell you a little bit about him, and we're going to bring him on so he can AMPspire you. All right? So today we have James Owen Roberts. James is an athlete, entrepreneur, podcast host, and an author with over 15 years of experience as a coach. James is a two-time Paralympic athlete. James was born with a congenital disability called femoral dysplasia of the left leg. This is a rare non-hereditary birth defect that affects the pelvis and the proximal femur. He struggled to come to terms with this and his disability as a teenager until it dawned on him that he was the only person that was affecting himself and found a way to overcome these hurdles. It was this mindset that set him up to win and later in life. James is an athlete, entrepreneur, podcast host, and an author. All right, James, thank you for being here. We appreciate you. You're my hero already. Say hi to the people.
Hello, everybody.
Well, James, tell us a little bit. I gave you a little bio, but you explain, yourself, your story, and why do you have the platform that you have, and what you got going on.
Okay, that's a great question, Plum Queen. Why have I got the platform that I have now? Obviously, I've got to first and foremost give credit to the disability, because without having the impairment and obviously coming to terms and accepting it and embracing it and pushing forward to obviously go to what was my ultimate dream, to represent my country in the Paralympics, and then obviously using that as, to a certain extent, a wedge to get through a door. I'd probably put those two hand in hand as to why I've got the platform that I do today.
All right. So tell us a little bit about your condition. I've never heard of that, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who haven't. So tell us exactly what your condition is.
I'm gonna do my best here. It's quite hard to put it into words for people to visualize it. So as you mentioned in the introductory, I'm missing my femur bone, so I don't have the top portion of my thigh bone. So I have a small tibia and fibula that's attached to the hip. So I've got what, if in effect, is the bottom half of everybody's bottom half of their leg attached. So it's taken me to get into the high levels of sport to see people similar to me, because growing up I didn't see anybody with amputations. I didn't see people with birth defects. I thought I was this very, I won't say unique. I would look at it probably negatively as, well, why am I not normal?
Okay, so it said that as you were a teenager, you was dealing with that, but there was this click moment where you decided that, I'm not hurting anyone but myself. So what transitioned? What was the click? What was that light bulb moment that made you realize that you needed to change your mindset?
Well, so people got some context. Both my parents were in the forces. My dad is retired U.S. Air Force, and my mother is a retired Native civilian. So I grew up in a military environment. So everybody, to a certain extent, there's a lot of differences. There's different cultures, different nationalities. People are obviously multi-race. It's something normal. So I think for me, from the physical standpoint, it was I wouldn't wear shorts. I was probably ashamed of having this difference that everybody else has got all the functioning limbs. So let me hide it away. And I think it was my sophomore, junior year in high school. And I thought, well, to hide it away, to feel uncomfortable, to a certain extent, be letting the cause and effect of the weather make me be uncomfortable, more sweaty than I need to be. That needs to stop. It's not affecting anybody else more than it's affecting me. It's I've got nothing to hide. People are going to accept me or they're not. So let's be comfortable and move forward. So for me, it's a small thing to overcome from an adversity standpoint because it's just changing some clothing. Uh, but it was probably monumentous because I was able to accept the disability and to kind of say, well, I'm different. You're going to accept me or you're not. And obviously, as a teenager, I think everybody's going through some problems at that particular moment in their lives anyway. So, and to my surprise, people accepted me. I think the one that may baffle people is I would be comfortable in any sporting arena to show the leg off being shorts. I was comfortable in that environment, but not outside it.
You know what? I think that does make a little bit of sense. You know, you gravitate to what you're comfortable. You said you're from the military and things of that nature, so that's something that you can succeed in. So it made you comfortable there. Whereas socializing is different because you're thinking about how people feel about you and what their thoughts are and their understanding and a lot. And when humans don't understand most of the things they don't understand, we fear. So, wondering if they're going to like you or accept you, I can see how it's more comfortable showing off what you can do than actually, what I'm saying, relating to other people. And that's one of the reasons why I started my platform for that very reason, because, from when I lost my arm, my thing really wasn't, I was worried more about my emotions. I was cool with this. I was cool with everybody. I never really cared about how people thought of me because I was a fat girl. So my disability prior to being this was being overweight or being too dark skinned or having what I'm saying, a fro for hair, because in America's your image is a big thing. And what I'm saying, like you said, teenagers growing up, you want to be liked, you want to be noticed, you want to, what I'm saying, experience those things. So because I didn't have that then, I kind of just attached my arm to the same thing. You know what I'm saying? So I totally understand that. And you're dope for figuring that out during your teenage years. Because again, you're going through hormone changes. You really don't know about life. You really don't. You're trying to find out who you are. You know what I'm saying? Emotionally and all that. And then on a physical standpoint, that's a lot for a teenager to deal with. So you're awesome for figuring that out. Like, seriously.
I appreciate that.
And also, you remind me of someone I went to high school with, which is what helped me get through this as well. I had a friend, I'm not gonna put his name out there. I'm not sure if he want to be exposed like that, but he was born with his hand missing. Now, I'm not sure if there was a disease to attach to it, but in high school, he played basketball. He was just like every other kid, had girlfriends, and so he was living a normal teenage life. So when I turned 22 and lost my arm, I kind of thought back to him and was like, well, man, he was hooping it and playing instruments and all that. So if he can do it, I can do it. You know what I'm saying? So people like y'all are amazing. Y'all really help us folks, out here who, trying to figure it out. Okay, so TEDx talk. What made no? Before I get there, how did you get into the Paralympics? If I'm
Yeah, that's
saying
correct.
that right?
I was in able body sport from the age of 11 until or when I left school at 19. And it was a chance meeting one day at practice. And one coach came over. I don't know why, but they came over and asked me, have you thought of sport? I was taken back by the comment. I didn't know what to say. I didn't. I've been brought up to be respectful of people's opinions, I know full heartedly I could compete to some extent and hold my own. Came home, had a discussion with my mum about it. Um, she won't probably won't mind me sharing this. She was probably more angry than I was. But we settled on it. We took some time to reflect over it, and I ran with it. So my head coach was also coaching a team off base, and he knew of a gentleman who ended up being my head coach for a little bit, for in the disability world, because he was coaching or co head coaching an able bodied team that they would compete against. I thought, I know somebody. Let me give you the contact details for them, and I think probably 3, 4, 5, 6 months passed. Went down to their training, to their practice in the summer. I think the team management just thought I'd be just this Joe Average coming off the street and trying to do a hobby. And to their surprise, and my mum was actually poolside with them, their eyes lit up. There's like, oh, we've hit the jackpot here. We've got somebody that's better than we thought. And so I give some context to you in the audience. The three better swimmers of that club all went to the Paralympics. One stayed in swimming and made the would have been the Athens game in 2004. I went to Beijing in '08, and obviously was very fortunate to compete in London in 2012. The one that superseded is the younger guy, still going. He's done Beijing, London, medaled in Rio. I think he went to Tokyo as well, and he's like superseded. So I had I bumped into him out in China, so it was a familiar face. Just happened to be for a different nation. So for me, it's probably a chance conversation that happened out of the blue. I don't know what was the intent of the conversation. Last year, I still kept in touch with the coach's son. I said, well, can you thank your mum for putting me on that road to succeed? Obviously, I've got to do the work, but if you don't bring that into the equation, we don't know where I am today. So it probably took a lot of um, other people to put me in that position. My mum probably did more so, because we went to a competition probably that summer, and she went out of her way to, after the session had finished, go down to the bottom of the bleachers, shout over the barrier, "Is there anybody there from the Welsh Tele?" I was mortified at 16 years old. I was like, "Where can I hide? This is so embarrassing." But if she wasn't willing to do that, I don't get put into being looked at. So what I think by the next season, I'd come back over here to swim, and they were looking out for me. It's like, oh, we see James on the starting list. Let's see if we can track him down. And they eventually did, brought me into the collective, and the rest is history, so to speak.
Wow. No excuses, guys. There's no excuses. If this man could go into the Olympics of some sort, there's no excuses. You can drink your water. You can run around that track. You can get your exercise on and all that, which we're going to get to. You're really into fitness. So please explain that, and how that affects amputees, and is there any way? Well, there is a way. So how do you help others? You know what I'm saying, with their fitness goals.
Well, I think you ask a great question there, Plum Queen, because being relatable is a massive key to my business, because there's nowhere that they can hide, because you can't use the arm, you can't use the leg as an excuse. It's like, well, hey, I relate that is a problem, but it's not the overriding factor as why you're not where you want to be it weight loss, with your gym regimen, with your mindset. and look to chip away more the people's behaviors and habits, like I would do if I was speaking to an able-bodied person. I'd probably be more ruthless with an able-bodied person because it's fun. Because I can bring up, well, you've got really no, you've got all your name. What's your excuse? So I'm maybe a little bit more compassionate and empathetic to other amputees, because it's like, well, you've got so much other baggage that's going with it. So it's like, well, I'm not gonna judge you for where you're at. It's like, let's find a solution that's not a cookie cutter approach. I've got to take it maybe to a very, very personalized approach, because every amputee is very, very different. Doesn't matter if it's single leg, double amputee, uh, single arm amputee, quad amputee. They're all might have the same disability impairment, but they're all different. So it's very exciting to speak to everybody. It gives me a buzz to be able to jump on calls and to speak, because everybody's predicament is slightly different. It's like, well, okay, you want to be able to exercise more. Okay, what have you tried and not tried in the past? What obstacles have you faced in the outside world, so to speak? So I'm willing to fight that battle for them, because it annoys me, because it's like I probably can count on, it's getting well over 10 figure people now that they're having an obstacle put in by the outside world of, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's like, it's not the person's fault, it's your unwillingness to either learn or to sit down with the person and have a conversation to kind of say, well, what do you want to achieve? It's not that difficult. I can think back to a couple of years ago having emails from coaches in the US. How do you talk to an amputee? It's like, they're not living on another planet. It's just talk to the person. I was probably harsh to the coach, because it's like, how would you speak to somebody that's wants to lose weight versus wants to put on muscle? Very differently. And to speak to an amputee is the exact same thing. I think early on in my career, everybody from the sales team, anybody with any disability, was signposted my way. I was like, why? It's okay. I probably can ask the PC questions because I can get away with it. Because it's like, well, how I don't know. I think some people are afraid to ask those questions. How long we've had the impairment, how does it affect? To me, I don't care. Hey, it's a general question. I'm curious to know more about you. I think for me, I know the guys and girls that I worked with years ago were more than capable of working with other people, with disabilities or impairments, because you've got to be compassionate to the person, and you've got to build up a relationship. You can't kind of go, okay, Plum Queen's got this problem, let me judge them because of X, Y, Z. Hey, you're never going to get along. That relationship is going to be very short lived, because if you can't be amicable and you can't work together, there's no trust. There's no element to that. So that is probably, so I don't go off on too much of a rant. That bugs me to high heaven to keep hearing the same narrative over and over again of well, I shared it a couple of days ago of as a post on Facebook. You're an amputee, you shouldn't use a regular gym. That was, somebody said that to me.
Oh wow.
So it's like, well, that's so wrong on so many levels, in terms of you're using red tape and health and safety so you don't have to deal with somebody. It's like, well, that's so wrong, because it's like, well, are you unwilling to be inclusive? Are you unable to think outside the box? There's so many lessons that
I got a few thoughts
team
about
can learn just from just having that individual, versus, oh, we can't have you come to the gym because you're a health risk. Like, well, the equipment is there to help the person get healthier, so why are you putting a barrier in their place?
Let me play devil's advocate for you.
Hmm.
I can't speak about the UK and how the mindset is out here, but here in the US, everything is about business. Okay. So in situations like that, you can get sued for anything. You look at somebody wrong,
Hmm.
they're suing you for $1 million. You know what I'm
Well,
saying? So
that's easy. That's an easy fix. Make the person sign a waiver.
I can dig it. I totally understand. But I feel like that's where that mindset comes from. I don't really think it's a lack of compassion, is a lack of humility when it comes down to business. The way we're taught out here, business is business. There's no emotions in that. There's no heart. There's no soul in that. It's just simply about the dollar. You know what I mean? So a gym is supposed to be a place for, for you to get healthy, for people to, get their mind right, their body right, and all that. And that's for us in the essence. But for the people who own the gym, they're all about profits. So not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that that is the mindset. So like for me, I don't go to the gym because I don't want to pay y'all for something that I can do myself. I'm just gonna keep it real. I understand you got equipment and all that, but I can definitely run on a track. I don't need to run on your your treadmill. If I want to do squats, yes, the the little weight bench thingy gives you a little leverage, but I can definitely lift my one hand up and I can squat down and do all that good stuff. So people are going to have their mindsets and their thoughts about things. And what I try to tell other people, whether it be amputee or of any kind, you got to let people feel how they feel and you can't let that affect you. You just move
Hmm.
around that and you make your waves. So I wish we were all overstanding and what I'm saying, had a better mindset, but that's just not the case. Now, with you talking about people talking to amputees about their disabilities, I have a little sympathy for that because they don't want to offend us. And a lot of us are very sensitive about it. So I also try to tell people with disabilities and or amputations to we have to find a level of mental and emotional strength, because we sometimes can take things the wrong way. People are curious. People want to know, but we take that as, a bad thing. Like, why are you staring at me? And why do you think I'm different? But some people don't, it doesn't be a negative thing. They're really curious. They want to know who you are and, know how to relate to you. So I feel like on both ends, needs to be a little bit of overstanding, you know what I'm saying? And a little bit of emotional and mental strength so we can bridge those gaps because we're still regular people. You know what I'm saying? I'm still Tamara. I'm still the same person I was before I lost my arm. I think I'm a little better, to be quite honest, since I did because it changed my mindset and, my overall energy. But we're still people, but we have to see ourselves that way. If you don't think you're a regular person, then no one else is going to see you, what I'm saying, as a regular person. So it really goes back to mindset, which I'm going to go back to segue that into your podcast, the Mindset Athlete Podcast. So tell us about that.
It's actually me. It's a clever hidden thing in terms of it's trying to give people behind the scenes look at every aspect of an athlete and every aspect of coach, academic, and kind of go give people this is how we overcome things or how people have overcome their setbacks and their adverse moments. Or these people that are ordinary individuals. They especially it's nice to give the athlete because I'm always going to be a Paralympian. It's nice to give especially those individuals a platform because it's like it is one of those things of I was asked, or I think it was after the games in Beijing back in '08. Are you comfortable with being in the spotlight for 2 weeks versus soccer, rugby? It's like I agreed at the time. I don't agree now because it's like, well, why do they get a platform? You could say the same with the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, NHL to a certain extent. Why have they got a platform that they're better than say somebody that's having to overcome the day-to-day struggles on top of trying to be the best individual they can be physically and to a certain extent emotionally and psychologically. It's probably more relatable to the general public, the journey of the Paralympian than the Olympian, because hey, they're going through the same struggles as the only person in the street. They're overcoming that, and they're trying to find any way that they can to be the best at their sport. So for me, it's one of those things that I'm not going to ask the stupid questions, because I've been there and seen it and got the t-shirt. I've been on the receiving end of those. You don't care. You really just give a mundane answer on it. You just kind of go through the run. Of I spoke to an ex rugby player who's now a referee internationally, and we talked about it off air of, who you playing this week. The person's going to be way, way, way down here in
Mhm.
terms of giving their all to the interview, because it's, well, I'm sick and tired of you asking me the same question. I think the one that's a part. I'm late to the party with watching Michael Jordan's Last Dance.
Mhm.
He was probably sick and tired of people asking, "Is this going to be your last year?" And going from city to city, having to ask the same question answering the same question over and over again. There gets a point that you really you can't be asked. It's like you guys are not really trying to think outside the box. So for me, the podcast was that, to give the ordinary person in the street listening to, this is how the person has got to that. This is what they do. Some of the stuff is hilarious. There's some humor in it from time to time. I think the best one I can remember to date is I can't remember the person's name, and I apologize to him. Lex Gillette, I remember now. He's a 5 or 6 time Paralympian, visually impaired, and he does the long jump.
Wow.
If you go and you go watch that on YouTube of the one that went wrong, how you come back from that landing on concrete as opposed to in the sandpit, takes a lot of bottle for people to do that, and you can't see. He lost his sight at 8 years old, so his was the discussion with his mom was like, "We're never going to see it again." He come to term to that, and he went to the University of East Carolina, which I played a lot of video games when I was a kid, so I know the mascot's a pirate. I brought it up. I was very, very, very. I was in two minds whether or not to include the question. I was like, well, if I'm going to offend some people, I'm going to offend some people. Hey, it's funny. It's going to be. He received it very, very well. What I didn't get was, also pilot. It's taken me like probably years after I did the interview. Our pirate's also got a prosthetic leg as well, so I could have made it even more of a running joke and included me and myself inside that as well. But it gives people, you probably get you'll see it, you'll hear it more often because it's every week. But you'll hear my personality. Maybe I've not said openly about a subject, be it on another podcast, in my content. I might bring something up because it's relevant because of what the person has said. Or I'll share something that nobody knows about me. So there'll be some rare gems of that. But it's the undertone of the show is to give the audience a different take on maybe what they'll see in the mass media, because I'm willing to maybe probe a little bit more, to ask the not uncomfortable questions, but it's to see where the person lies based on their opinion, and if it's something that they're outspoken about and they believe in, hey, why not give them the platform to be able to share that?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I think that's definitely cool because as people, we always see the end result. We see people on TV, we see what they're doing, but we have no idea the process that they go through to get there. We think they're amazing. We see the smiles on their face, but we don't know the heart, saying the hard work, the tears, the sweat that they had to go through to get there. And a lot of times that's why people don't really respect it because you think that they just got it like that, because you don't see the process. You just see them when they pop up on the screen. It's like that in music as well. Most people think some of these artists just pop up out of nowhere, but they've been doing music and writing and performing for 15, 20 years before they get their first break.
Mhm.
and you just think that they're an overnight success. Nah, they've been working
There,
hard.
there are those rare occasions that does happen in Paralympics,
Yeah,
but
okay, deception. So,
it's probably, gosh, how many athletes would be in a village? We'll say probably a couple thousand. That I probably can count. Maybe it's less than 100 people that would happen. I think there's there was that perception. I don't know if it still exists. There was
that's
that perception over here that the servicemen coming back from Afghanistan or Iraq will walk straight into a Paralympic team. It's like it doesn't work that way. There's going to be people already in those teams that have a problem with that because you're not. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit down and lie down for you to take my spot. I'm going to have something to say from an action rules. It happened to me. What season would it have been in? It was the '07 season when I was in British rowing. They did a documentary on the BBC about this person.
okay.
He didn't even get past the first hurdle, so he never even challenged me to even get in the boat. He wasn't good enough. So
That's right.
it's one of those things that the BBC probably should have done a follow up. And where is he now? Because it's like, well, you're making a big deal about it. For me, it was good because it would give me a kick up the ass because I was a little bit complacent. Even though I'd done my first World Championships the year before, I was kind of, well, I've made it to a certain extent. I'm here. All I got to do is do this. That doesn't work. It doesn't work. So for me, it was a massive kick up the ass because it's like, okay, this person's coming for your spot, James. What are you going to do about it?
That's right.
And it re-established my focus as, well, I'm not doing enough to. If I do just this, I'm not going to be in the boat come the summer. So for me, it was like, well, I've seen it. It's lit a fuse up my ass, literally. And what are you going to do about it? I the
I
the
love it.
the person, I think he was, I won't say he wasn't good enough physically, but they made him like he was like I'm not gonna, it's not tongue in cheek a little bit, like the next Messiah. It's like you're not that good. And I was surprised when I beat him. It's like, well, you made a documentary about this person. He's not even close. I was beaten by other people on that day, but I took, I think it was about 4 or 5 of us. I was like, well, if I'm in the top 3, I'm in contention, and I'll let rowing's got a good saying of the ergo doesn't float, so the row machine doesn't mean anything unless it's really, 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 really close. They'll go back to that data. So it's like, well, if I'm in contention indoors, I know I'm better than the guys outside. I know I can beat them. So for that one, and I've not spoken to it for years about it, but it was a nice motivated, and it's something now I say to people that shouldn't be enough. You shouldn't need somebody else to light that fuse. I should have enough inside me and enough belief in myself to, I do the basics over and over again, and I'm going to get better. That's something I do now, but it's what, am I 35, almost 36 years old. I was 20 years old. I was a bit more, not very wise head. I think I know I think I know it all, and I didn't, and that could have cost me.
Well, just to say this, that is a human thing that has nothing to do with having a disability at all. So that is something that all people can draw from. Now, I will say, yes, we should definitely draw from ourselves. I work on that. So that's one of my insecurities because sometimes when I have my weak moments, because I'm the strong one. I'm the one that's supposed to have it all together and help people get it all together. So it makes me have a bit of a defeating thought process when I don't. But I have to understand I'm human and I find motivating in those moments. I am supposed to draw from different motivations. So, like you said, that put a fire under your butt when they tried to put somebody, you know what I'm saying? They put this guy on this pedestal and he wasn't even that good. So it made you feel like
that's my overall
opinion. Well, wait,
reflection
that's your
on
opinion, which is cool. Again, I'm talking about how you felt in your universe and how you felt about it. So that's how that affected you. So you feel like he ain't even that good. I could do better than that. So all I need to do is step my game up, and you know what I'm saying, and do more. I need to do more. So you know what I'm saying, so I can prove that. And I think that's what humans tend to not do. You know, we don't we always try to play the blame game, because you could have just very well just been upset and been like, oh, how did he do that, and not made changes within yourself. That was
Oh,
that
sports,
was key.
sports ruthless. It doesn't care if you had that kind of mindset. They'd move on. They'd leave you in the dust. Like
Well,
if
that's
you
the
want to
life.
blame your coach, you want to blame every other circumstance. It happened to me the following season. I didn't turn up. I didn't turn up to the Olympic trials. Not, I don't mean literally. I mean, I was the person that competed was a shell of myself, and people were shocked. They're like, "Well, James has been wiping the floor with the other person, and what is this?" I'd let the occasion get the better of me. I'd made this thing to be, like second coming of Christ to a certain extent. It was like the be all and end all. Is what I wanted to do, so I made it a big deal, and I made it too much of a big deal, and obviously the occasion took the better of me, and I underperformed. So I think from that perspective, I didn't blame anybody. It's like it's not the other person's fault in the boat. It's not the coaches. The responsibility. I was devastated. It's like I've let myself down more than anything else. As you, well, I've never performed as poorly ever since or before that, and I went, okay, what's a lesson that can be learned from that? It happened once,
That's the lesson.
probably a couple of years ago, and I went, well, you made the occasion a big deal because I play wheelchair basketball now, so it's as a team sport, and because I hadn't played, I think it was the 2 games before it, I need to make an impression that I deserve to start for the rest of the season. I bombed it. I was like, well, lesson to learn from that. We did it in the run up to a games. You've done it in a season. Don't do it again. A game is no different from practice. Our practice is probably harder than games sometimes. There's no difference other than there's a different opponent in front of you. That's about it. So that's the mindset I go into now as, hey, if you're better than me on the day, good job. You got the better of me today. You're the better person. Good job. Could I have that conversation 15 years ago? No chance. Because I would blame. I think the best person that knows me the best is my mom, because she's been there for most of that journey in sport. I would blame everybody else, not look at my own performance. It'd be, well, this wasn't right, that wasn't right, X, Y. And once I made my first Paralympics and we finished fifth, and we were allowed to come see our families after it finished, I said, "Well, I think my mum asked. I can't remember what she actually asked me, but how do you think it went?" We've done the best that we could. She was shocked. It's like, where is the James that I know? Where is he hiding? I'd accepted the result as we threw pretty much the kitchen sink at it, and it wasn't good enough. There's nothing I can do about it. The other crew, well, the fourth crew, I'm a little bit annoyed because they beat us by points. It was 0.8 of a second in the end. They beat us on the surge. They had an awful start, and that was our game plan. As the coaches have said to me, stick with the Italians. What do I do now that they're behind me at the start? They pretty much got left by the field. It's like our game plan's gone out the plan. I had to make it up as I went along, and that's a Paralympic final. But I was probably the most relaxed I've ever been, and I don't know why, considering that is the pinnacle of disability sport, is a final at Paralympics. So for me, the reflection after, I wasn't very happy the next day because all my other teammates, bars two in the boat, medalists. So I was human. I came down, I was like, well, yeah, the normal James is back. I didn't blame anybody because it's like, well, we've done the best. I knew in my heart and hearts, I'd gone full time. I threw everything at it. Everybody was behind me. Do I blame the other person for maybe not being as committed? Not now, because it's like, well, that was their perception on commitment. It might maybe not met my expectations or standard, but that's okay. And I don't try and analyze or over think things that happen. Say it happened. Would I have liked things to have maybe transpired differently? Absolutely, but it didn't. So it's probably molded me into the person I am now. Those failures, and I think everybody needs to remember that failure isn't a failure. It's something to be learned about. You just got to look at it like that.
It's just a lesson. That's a fact. That is my biggest message on all of my podcasts that I talk about is just truly understanding that there are no failures. Though there are no setbacks, they're all lessons. What's for you is always going to be for you. So if it doesn't turn out the way that you want it, that means your universe, God, whoever, what I'm saying, you pray to is redirecting you, what I'm saying, somewhere else or teaching you a real lesson that you need for the future.
Well,
So
there's a Tony Robbins quote of where you focus. Well, how do you say? I can't remember how you say it. Where you focus your attention is where your energy goes. So if you're focusing on something bad, you're obviously going to feel like crap. If you focus on something that's good, it's going to make you feel good. And I've said it on a few podcasts that recently. What if? There's two different directions with those two words. One is negative, and I can't do it from a tonality perspective, but I apologize for that. And one is going to make you feel very enthused. Oh, what if I can achieve?
like, what if that can do this? And what if
It's
I
like
can do that? Or
your mindset completely shifts.
what if this does this? Or what if this happens like this? Or what if this happens like this? There you go. I'm not an actor, but that's kind of I get what I get where you're going. Well, James, I want you to tell the people. Well, talk to us about TEDx talk because I don't want to hold you, for long. I know you got to go out there and be amptastic and got clients to talk to. So tell us a little bit about TEDx talk and how people can find you for your services, podcasts, and all of that good stuff.
I'll touch upon the TEDx first. That is probably the most difficult thing I ever achieved, and people will probably be surprised because I've spoken to numerous TEDx speakers because of the podcast, and they're like, "Well, James, how come you haven't done one yet?" It's like, well, I don't know how you go about it. I don't know what the steps are. To get the one that I've done that's on YouTube took me 2 years before I actually got a yes. And I've opened the TEDx event as well, and that eventually didn't work out to actually speak at that event. But I took it upon myself to kind of go, well, you want to. This was your Mount Everest so people have some content. That was the closest thing I thought. Well, what can I replicate to be on par with being a Paralympian? I was like, well, why not try and do this? And it is more difficult than people think because ultimately the gatekeeper to speak at one of those events is the organizer. So if they don't think that your talk is going to be in fitting with their event, or they have a specific identity or box they want it to be, you're not going to please that person. So I think one event in particular, the coach I had for it was next teammate, so that was quite helpful. And he spoke to it for me, and he's like, "Oh, this is the promises I'm looking for." Oh, no point applying to that one because I'm not going to get through the door. So the Liverpool one has happened more than hook and by crook because they had to move it because of COVID, because of the university wanted to have the amphitheater for more paying events. So they said to theirs, like, well, you're going to have to move yours forward. I stumbled upon it. It probably more than I probably steered in that direction to go and look. And I got chatting with them. I was like, well, why is the event moved? Da, da, da. So got very, very much built that relationship up. And because I don't live that far away from it, it's like, oh, there's synergy with it. What you want to talk about is very in keeping with what we want to do, and then the way we went. Did I want to do it remotely as I did? Not really. I would rather have done it in person and done it to an audience. So it kind of it changed. It went from being an in-person event to, if you wanted to, you could do it live, and doing it in an empty auditorium, which would be weird. Having to talk to there's nobody there. I know television will do it, but it's like for when you've spent a lifetime being an entertainer in sport, you do have a crowd. You do have people there that are cheering you on. So to do a talk and you have no feedback to how it's being delivered. Okay, remotely I had to do that as well, because you don't you don't know how the introductory paragraph is going to be taken, how it's going to be received. The first person I shared it with was my mom, and her jaw dropped with the. I was like, well, if it's had that, and it's my reflection on the talk you gave me, what impact's going to have to your audience? So I don't know how it's been received, because there was nobody at that particular moment in person to kind of and he really said that, or laugh, or there was no actual emotional feedback to kind of go, well, I can hear you, James. I can relate to that. Obviously, the TEDx, they're not going to say it, I think, out loud, but you can hear by people's reactions how it's being received. So I forgot your secondary and third question now.
Oh,
So I
if you had
apologize.
to just tell people how they can find you, your services, and things of that nature. Because, like I said, I don't want to hold you too long, because I know you were busy man.
Well, I can see most of them going on the ticker below me. So you can find me via my website, jamesowenroberts.com. You can find me on all my social medias at James O. Roberts. James O. Roberts 11. And you can find my podcast, The Mindset Athlete, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or anywhere that you listen to podcasts.
All right. And can you give us, our viewers, your last great words of advice?
Well, I'm reading the comments here, but to the next to me, I don't know who the person is of what mindset, because it just came in 20 minutes ago. So my lasting comment would be, just go for it. And I might even steal Nike's slogan, just do it.
Good.
Because ultimately, the only person that's stopping you from doing anything is you. You might perceive that it is a person, a scenario that's holding you back from it. It's like, well, ultimately, you're overthinking things. You're either looking for the perfect storm, or you're finding any excuse to get out of it, which is procrastination, so you won't go anywhere. So it's just a willingness to just take that leap of faith. Just jump to a certain extent, and you'll find out through it that you either you don't enjoy the process, you thoroughly enjoy it, it's not what you expected from a good perspective, but you when it's positive, you will progress because you enjoy it. It's like, well, I'm getting a buzz out of this, well, why stop? But you will never know that until you take that first step.
So, in the words of James Owen Roberts, take that next step. All right, James, I really, really appreciate you giving us your time and your energy, sharing your story and your expertise. We definitely want to, have you back on here, because I actually have another podcast situation. I'm just the podcast queen. I had a segment called What the Gut Wednesdays before I started, before my channel launched. So it's all about health. I've been on my health journey since 2012. And, my arm, losing my arm was the catalyst to that. Because, like I said, I've always been overweight, but it started to affect my legs. It was hard for me to walk up hills, and I was like about 25, 26 years old. So I had to lose the weight so I can have a better quality of life. So, we want people like you, saying that with your expertise, to help other people with their mindset, so they can do the same thing too. So we will be having you back on here. All right.
I
So
appreciate that.
I appreciate you too. You enjoy the rest of your day. Okay. All right, guys. So James is awesome, ain't he? Like Paralympics, never thought in the world. Now I'm definitely about to go out and go to the track and run them 4 miles that I used to. Because yeah, I'm trying to be like him when I grow up. But guys, you know what's coming? You know what's coming? You know what's coming? April 9th. AMPspire Media Network is launching on Roku and Roku TV. Get excited. If you don't have one, go and get you one. It's very inexpensive. I think the cheapest one is $30. I'm telling you, this Ampspiration is worth it. We're going to have all of these interviews. You're going to see, Sundays with Spirit with my cousin 33 Master Teacher. You're going to get Soul Sister Therapy Childhood Trauma Podcast with my sisters. And we're also going to be having a Helping Hand Talk Therapy service that I'm going to be putting out. There's a lot of people in my inbox right now who just want to talk, who need to vent, you know what I'm saying? Even just want me to tell them on, how I go through life and how I figure things out. So there's only 24 hours in a day, so I can't get all to them. So I'm going to set up a situation, where I can talk to people individually. So we can give you your undivided attention, so we can work on, what you got going on, personally. All right. Again, we want to thank James Owen for his time and his energy. And, next week we have some more interviews coming. So make sure that you tap in, tune in. And of course, always, guys, be inspired. I love, love, love y'all. Enjoy the rest of y'all's day. Peace.